You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Tip of the cap to our buddy Sam Spiegelman, longtime friend of the show. It is rare that we have heard on-the-record comments from Arch Manning about his recruitment, but with Newman opening up spring football, Sam Spiegelman got to head down to New Orleans there and chat with the number one prospect in the class of 2023, and Sam Spiegelman's good enough to join us for a couple of minutes here. Sam, thanks, man. How are you?
Doing great, Matt. How you doing?
Doing very well, man. Congrats. Good get here, getting Arch to speak. First and foremost, how'd you get? I mean, it's been rare that he's spoken. So how did you pull this off?
Yeah, I would say patience. He was competing for a state championship in football, then very quickly dived into basketball. I actually won a state championship playing basketball. Then, he kind of dived back into his recruitment. He took a couple of visits, and, it's always been kind of the policy. They're not going to do a media session after each visit. They're going to look at a big picture more so. And with the spring opening up, it just happened to be a good time to kind of reflect a little bit. And I think they're still kind of figuring out their own next steps. So it's a good time to kind of reflect and then finally speak to the media about it.
What was interesting, Sam, is you asked him specifically – or maybe he commented specifically about 5 different schools. There's some specifics I want to get into, but was there any of the comments that he made specifically about a school in particular that stood out most to you?
I would say 3 schools definitely feel like they're contenders based on not only his comments, but his history of visits to each of those schools and the amount of time each of those programs have spent recruiting him. And first and foremost, Georgia raving about Athens, raving about Kirby Smart. I think that really stood out to me. It kind of checked a lot of boxes for Arch. Then you flip over to Alabama. Obviously, Nick Saban has taken a personal lead role in his recruitment. You had multiple Alabama coaches at his practice as Newman opens up for the first time in weeks. And then, Bryce Young, obviously not only NIL, but Heisman, best offensive player in the country, best player in the country possibly. And, he's not the first, Alabama quarterback to go in the first round in the last couple of years. And he spoke about that. And, people, obviously being based in Louisiana, people talk a lot about Austin and the connections between New Orleans and Austin as cities. And Art spoke about that pretty openly. And nothing that you wouldn't expect from, someone who's been there a bunch of times. People not named Arch Manning have called Steve Sarkisian one of the best, if not the best play caller in the country. And I think the spring game showed that. He had a good visit there about a month ago, and it sat well with him. And I think at this point he's not ready to make a decision. But those comments really did stand out as, he's torn. I think that's pretty clear. He said if he would make a decision, he would have. I truly believe that if he was ready to make a decision, he would get this out of the way. And it just adds some more intrigue as we go into this next round of visits.
It was interesting how he mentioned at any point that he was ready to make a decision, he would, but he hasn't yet. Do you get a sense, I mean, you cover this as closely as anybody, but do you get a sense of when he might make the decision?
I think that originally the plan has always been, quarterbacks always traditionally commit early, and for Arch in particular, who is going to take his time because he is not going to do a decommitment or a flip, that's not going to be in the arsenal for Arch. He's going to make a decision and stick with it. So whenever he was ready, and I think ideally that would have been at some point in the off season leading into his senior season, which again is still on the table, right? He just started spring ball, so that's going to be his focus for the next couple of weeks. And then he's going to look into some visits and official visits. Could a decision follow that? Possibly. He certainly left the door open to that. He said he wouldn't mind taking it, briefly into the season if he needs to. And then at the end, he said, if worst case scenario, I will be signed in December. So, there's always the signing day. So, the thing about it, no one has crossed that line yet. Schools are getting closer. clear. He admits that, there is some movement at the top in his recruitment. He feels that he is progressing toward a decision. It's becoming clearer and clearer, but not one school has really separated from at least 2, 3, or 4 others at this point. And, with his comments about 2 SEC schools that, like Florida and LSU, maybe he does want to see a couple more schools before he moves forward with these other 3 that he brought up.
Sam, let me transition there and ask you about LSU, since obviously a lot of people here are going to be interested in that. Do you anticipate, two-part, that LSU will get an official visit from Arch? And what's a realistic chance of LSU getting Arch Manning, not only on, but to sign and to be a part of the LSU program?
I don't know if LSU will get an official visit. Like I said, I think he's, he didn't say how many official visits he's eyeing. It seems as if Alabama, Georgia, and Texas are all but assured officials because they are advanced in his recruitment. But the thing about Arch is everyone wants to speculate about his recruitment. But like you said to open this segment, he very rarely goes on the record about his recruitment. He brought up Florida and he brought up LSU. He noted that he has a teammate, Bo Bordelon, who signed with LSU last year. They've obviously been close, playing together for the last couple of years, and he wants to see Bo, whether it's at a practice or at a game. He kind of opened the door that he's going to be in Baton Rouge. It could be an unofficial visit. It may be an official visit if he wants to use all 5. That'll be up to Arch. What I can say is this new staff, headed by Brian Kelly, but certainly supplemented by Frank Wilson and Joe Sloan and Mike Denbrook, but some really familiar, prominent names in the state of Louisiana and Frank Wilson and Joe Sloan, combined with Brian Kelly, who did recruit Arch while he was the head coach. I think that there's been more intrigue with LSU under this regime than any previous interest under the previous regime.
He's on Twitter at Sam Spiegs, On3Sports. Sam Spiegelman is with us, national recruiting analyst. Chatted with Arch Manning. You can go read it. It's a free story if you want to go read it at on3sports.com and everything that he had to say. Sam, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. There's no Ole Miss there. Tons of speculation, obviously, because Archie and Cooper, Arch's father, were Ole Miss alums. Is Ole Miss not in any way part of this conversation any longer?
I can't say for sure either way, but definitely, between the reporting that we've done as a team at On3 over the last couple of months, from the end of his season until he finally went on the record yesterday, it seems like Ole Miss has kind of dissipated from the race. We know that Clemson has, and they were more forward about Clemson falling out, but there hasn't been any direct quotes saying that they are officially out by any means. And you can only guess what could happen with Lane Kiffin at the helm. He's always got a trick up his sleeve, but they've found a quarterback. They're in the pursuit of Jaden Rashada from California. It seems and Arch did not return there for the spring. He doesn't seem to have any plans to go there anytime this summer. He didn't make any mention of them on his own will. So I think by process of elimination, looking in, eliminated entirely, probably not, but right now definitely not in that top 3 or 5, or at least the group that Arch spoke about publicly.
Sam Spiegelman, On3Sports. Arch Manning, man, this has been as long and interesting a recruitment as I can recall. Can you, Sam, last thing before you go, is there any recruitment that you would compare to this one as far as the longevity of knowing he was going to be the number 1 player in his class and just a guy that just hasn't really been very open or forward with the process?
Matt, we in the state of Louisiana, we've had so many, not only elite guys, but a lot of number 1 guys in the country, as you know, guys like Leonard and Mason Smith and Derek Stingley Jr. and now Arch is following suit. And this one is completely different, and not in a bad way by any means. Limited access is, probably better in the whole sense of things. Someone's recruitment is their own personal business, their family's business, and the fact that we have to report on it is, we're trying to, we're reporters. We're digging in, trying to find out what the latest is because there's an interest in it. And I think they've been really good with the media, all things considered, but, like kind of like you said, and kind of what I echoed is very rarely does he go on the record, and there's still so many unknowns in this recruitment. There's so much speculation. There's so many narratives. There's so many factors from Arch getting to know him as a kid to getting to be the first football family, and not only in Louisiana, but you can almost say in the NFL overall, which is so unique to say. And it's a family of quarterbacks, tied to the SEC. They live in New Orleans. LSU is now, maybe in the mix. It looks like every time we think that we have a grasp on the recruitment, we're always kind of thrown for a loop, and that's kind of fun. No, I don't think there is anything like it. I think it's been a lot. I'm excited for it to eventually be over with so we can all get some sleep again. But Amber's been a really fun ride, and I think Arch, it's really been all about him, and he's handled it exceptionally. And he's a great kid that gets a lot of eyes on him for his last name. And not only is he a good kid, but he's an outstanding football player. And just watching him grow yesterday, he is the number one player in the country, and I think that we're going to see a lot of that this season.
Sam Spiegelman, On3Sports, on Twitter at Sam Speaks. Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, Matt. Anytime.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.